Hi everyone, welcome to this new video. In today's video, we're gonna keep working with MLflow experiments, specifically about updating experiments. And the first method that we're gonna explore is MLflow.setExperimentTag. Now, this experiment set a tag on the current experiment. And as you can see here, this method takes two arguments, the key and the value. The key is the tag name, and here we can read some conditions and limitations, and here the value for this particular tag. Now, something important to notice here is that this method set a tag on the current experiment, right? Which means that it's important to have a native experiment when we are using this method, because as you can see here, there is not a mechanism that we can use to specify an experiment. So let's get started with some examples. I'm going to set my tracking URI, and now I'm going to set this experiment, the experiment that we created during the last video, creating experiments, to have a native experiment. And here in this line, I am basically showing the metadata associated to this experiment. So as you can see here, we have two tags, topic and version. Let's create a new tag using the method that I mentioned before, MLflow.setExperimentTag. The key is new tag and the value is new tag value. Now here, I am retrieving the experiment just to get an current version or updated version of the experiment object here. So now I have three tags, new tag, topic, and version. Now let's say that we want to update an existing tag. Well, in this case, we can use the same method and just specify the name of the tag that we want to update. For example, here, I want to update new tag with new tag value updated. So I am using MLflow.setExperimentTag. I am retrieving the experiment just to get an updated version of this object. And here we can see how the tag was updated. New tag, and then the value is new tag value updated. Now let's explore another method that is very similar, MLflow.setExperimentTags. In this case, this method takes only one argument or parameter, tags, which is a dictionary of tags. So this method is used when we want to set more than one tag at the same time. And again, set a tags for the current active experiment, which means that it's important to have an active experiment when we are using this method. Now let's use this method. Here, in this cell, as you can see, instead of providing key value pairs, I am providing a dictionary with tags. Now, what I'm going to do is to update existing tags in the experiment, new tag and version. As we know, these tags are already there. And here I am just updating the values. So let me run this code. Now we have tags, right, with the new value, new tag value updated again, and version is now version 2. Now we can update tags using the client as well. In this case, we have this method setExperimentTag, and the main difference is that in this case, we can specify the experiment ID, right? Which means that it's not necessary to have a native experiment. Set a tag on the experiment with the specified ID, and the value is converted to a string. Now here we have the experiment ID, the string ID of the experiment, the key, and the value. So let's use this method. First, I'm going to create an instance of the MLflow client here. And then I'm going to use the method client.setExperimentTag. I am providing the ID of the experiment that I want to update, the name of the tag, and the new value. Let's run this function. And here we can see how we were able to update the tag that we called new tag with this value, new tag value updated with the client. And the other tags were already present there. Now, We can also use tags to provide a description in MLflow or in an MLflow experiment. Let me show you something in the interface. So here, if I go to creating experiments, we can see that there is this field add description, which means that we can basically include a description here. But we can do this using tags. So let me go back to the notebook. And here I am using this specific tag, MLflow.node.content. And we can say that this is a special tag that MLflow provides so that we are able to update the description. So basically, this tag represents the description in the experiment. So here I'm going to set this tag as with this value, right? This is a description for the experiment. So let me run this. And now let me show you this in the interface. So I'm going to refresh this page. And now you can see that there is a description here. Now let me go back to the notebook. And here I'm just going to use MLflow.setExperiment, right? Just to get an updated version of the object. And here we can see that there is this new tag, MLflow.nodeContent, with the value, this is the description for the experiment. Now, another function that we can use with the client is rename experiment. And this method can be used to rename an MLflow experiment, providing the experiment ID and the new name. So let's try that method. Here, I am creating a new instance of the MLflow client. Then I am using the method rename experiment. I am providing the experiment ID and the new name for the experiment. And here I'm just basically retrieving the experiment to get an updated version of the experiment object. So let me run this. And now here in the metadata of the experiment, we can see that the name is renamed experiment. Now let me show you this in the interface. Here, if I refresh the page, we can see that now instead of creating experiments, we have renamed experiment. Well, that was everything for this video. Thanks for watching it and see you next time.